Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning, Sean from Elmwood Park. And Sean, I wanted to bring this to your attention. Victoria has another secret that she's disclosed.
Karl Rove?
Karl Rove?
That's Victoria's real secret, because if he's not prancing around in a reverse thong, nobody is.
That's an image.
All right.
Thank you for that. They have disclosed the retention of their first trans model, Valentina Sapio.
A little more than you bargained for should be the tagline there.
Brazilian model. So you just may want to pay close attention or avert your eyes to the next Victoria's Secret show. Yeah. First openly transgender model to model for Victoria's Secret.
Openly transgender. There's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
All right.
Hmm.
See what I did there?
I did.
All right.
The chief marketing officer of Victoria's Secret has resigned. He said he didn't think the brand should include transsexuals in the show.
Oh, gee. Yeah, that's good.
It's a bold position.
And now for our new Schwansteiger line.
Why not? Why not? Because the show is a fantasy. It's a 42 entertainment special. That's what it is. He later apologized. My remark regarding the inclusion of transgender models in the Victoria's Secret fashion show came across as insensitive. I apologize. To be clear, we would absolutely cast a transgender model for the show. And so that's about as much of a 180 as it can happen. But he got ash canned anyway. And by the way, L Brands. You know who's?
I have no idea who L Brands. Are you nuts? I'm 51 years old.
Actually,
Things were clean cut when I was a kid.
Victoria's Secret parent company, L Brands.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who its chairman and chief executive is?
Michelle Obama?
Leslie Wexner.
Ooh.
Does that name ring a bell?
Old man Wexler's kid.
Jeffrey Epstein's buddy.
Oh, there it goes. The one who was arranging the massages?
And Wexner now suggesting that as much as $43 million of his money was misappropriated by Jeffrey Epstein. So now we're starting to learn perhaps some of the sources of Jeffrey Epstein's money to pursue his pedophilic interests.
Bill Clinton hasn't been this nervous since the 90s.
Also, just in terms of corporate America and sport as well, the drag queen story hour for kids, that's not something that just happens in Queens, New York anymore. In Atlanta, the city wanted to thank its corporate sponsors for their commitment to drag queen story hour at the local library, including the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Falcons, and Whole Foods.
Is it going to be read by Eddie Murphy?
Eddie Murphy.
He's a freak. Likes the transgender, sure.
Oh, I forgot about that story.
Little
Okay.
Sunset Strip, baby.
Well,
get in the car. Don't worry about it.
All this is a perfect segue to a discussion of this piece in Spectator.us about the fantasies of the left revolving around the sexualization of children. Piece written by Libby Emmons, who joins us now. Libby, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Sure thing. Glad to be here.
So one of the things in your piece, I thought this was a really good question, argument you make in the form of a question. If children have enough agency to obtain abortions, gender-affirming hormones, and surgeries, why shouldn't they marry or vote? And why should we have any ages of consent? Jeffrey Epstein would probably argue.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think there's a total disconnect between how we're supposed to regard children's agency for purposes of gender options and abortion versus the prohibited rights of, voting and marriage. And I'm certainly not in favor of child marriage. I think it's an abysmal practice.
Right.
But the question remains: why is it okay to allow children to engage in permanent sterility and hormone treatment, or the termination of pregnancies, but it's not okay for these other things like voting and all of that kind of stuff? The rights that our culture pushes for children to have are those that sexualize them, not the ones that actually value their ability to make decisions. there are all these cases of kids getting picked up and parents getting arrested because kids are being allowed to walk home from school by themselves. And these are the same kids that would be allowed to change gender at school and not have to tell their parents, or obtain morning after pills without having to get any kind of authorization. And it's really telling that children's sexuality is more valued than what they actually think.
Well, right, and you talk about the more value than their judgments. So at the same time this is happening, the move to abolish these consent requirements with respect to sexual and reproductive choices and so forth. You have increasing the age from 18 to 21 to smoke. You have a proposal from Adam Kinzinger, a Republican congressman in Central Illinois here, to increase the age at which a gun can be purchased in Illinois to 21. So at the same time, and of course, this is against the backdrop of Illinois passing the most pro-abortion law in the country just this past legislative session. So there's that contradiction too, to sort of accentuate the point that you're making.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. If you can have an abortion, if you can kill in one respect, why can't you kill in another? I guess be a little flip about it.
Well, and we can also we would also avoid all of this sort of uncomfortable litigation, wouldn't we? The Catholic Church could get its money back. The Boy Scouts of America, facing a civil lawsuit, announced this week. The abused and scouting lawyers say they've identified 350 previously unknown scoutmasters and volunteers who allegedly preyed on boys whose names were not known to law enforcement or in the Boy Scouts of America. I guess it's Scouts now. I'm even using the improper.
Scouts, because everyone can.
That's right.
Join.
So names not known to law enforcement or in the internal database, which the critics have called perversion files. So if there's no such thing as pedophilia, if that just goes by the board and it just becomes a consent issue, then we're going to owe a lot of apologies to predatory scoutmasters and priests and teachers and the like, aren't we?
Yeah, sure. And the other thing, too, that people forget is that the reason there are these prohibitions against what kinds of activities children can engage in, from, consent laws to purchasing guns to voting to drinking to smoking to any of those things, or, to engaging legally in sex work even, or any of this kind of stuff. The reason is that children are easily coerced, and we forget that when we try to give them all of these extra rights to make self-determining choices that have long-term impact. Children want to please the people that are around them, to meet the expectations of the people that love them, and to retain that love. And when we give them the option to do that in a way that is harmful to them, we're just opening the door to predators. And we're getting a totally mixed message from our media that values, the sexualization of children on television. And even with there was that whole story about the young boy who's a drag queen at 11 years old. What kind of lunacy is that? He's going to be walking around thinking he's spectacular because everyone tells him so, not realizing until he's much older that what's going on is that he's being preyed upon. I know a lot of girls when I was in high school who were, dating older men. So here's these 15, 16-year-old girls going out with guys in their late 20s or early 30s. And it's only until they're in their late 20s and early 30s and they realize, like, oh, these guys were nasty. Why do I want to go out with them? And it's because it's an older authority figure who appears to care for you.
Yeah, we just call those Mormons. Now, I want your prediction on some things, all right? Because at the same time this is happening to our society, at the exact same time, the state's role against the parents, the state's role inside your walls of your house has grown to a level where, I'm an old man. My daughters are 18 and 16. But it was 10 years ago when they came home from school and said, my teacher said I have rights, and Dad, if you yell at me or you mean to me or you spank me, I'll call DCFS. So I watched that happen at the simultaneous time as the people who are influencing our kids have lost all sense of morality. How does it end, Libby? Do I have any hope, or am I just going to be a bitter old man at Panera yelling at the girl who gave me cold soup?
I'm pretty sure you're going to end up yelling about the cold soup.
All right.
But I do think that you're right about the situation where, like, there was a situation in New York. A mom left her 3 kids at home to take care of each other. I think the oldest was 10. The neighbor found out that the 10-year-old was watching a 3-year-old. The mom was gone for 20 minutes to the market, and all her kids got taken away. That's not better for the mom. It's not better for the kids. And it's certainly not great to drag your 3 kids down to the corner store when all you need is some bread and milk. You know, it is ridiculous, and there is a division coming between children and parents, and it is being pushed by the state, and it's being pushed with these kinds of laws that open up children to be influenced by all kinds of forces that are not the parents. And what the state forgets with these kinds of laws is that parents and kids need to rely on each other 100% in order to protect those kids' lives. That's what parents are doing. You know, we're keeping these kids alive until they can be adults on their own. And to get in the way of that, I think is harmful for society as well as for the kids. And it also forgets that most parents don't suck that bad. You know what I mean? Like, all parents are weird because all people are weird, but like most parents pretty much just love their kids and are trying to do the right thing for them. The amount of parents that are intentionally malicious and abusive, I don't think are as numerous as the ones who aren't like that.
With respect to following the logic of laws in this area, consent laws with respect to various things, the trouble there, following the left's logic, I'm having trouble following it culturally as well. I'm speaking specifically of the Me Too movement, where we're arguing that women are being manipulated in situations where the power relationship is such that they're in a subordinate position professionally, and that has to end. So grown women can be manipulated, can be overpowered, sort of culturally, in work situations and professional situations by men, and that has to end. But a 12-year-old girl can make her own choices in this realm in terms of whether or not she wants to go over to Jeffrey Epstein's house.
Yeah, that's pretty disturbing. I think that the evidence that women in subordinate positions have been able to be manipulated or taken advantage of is probably there. I think that that's, been true. And I think that was probably true in the 20th century as well. Women are attaining more, equality in society just in terms of what it's perceived that women are capable of doing. And that's a great change. And I think that's positive. I think we had that with, women astronauts as well, which was certainly a while ago that we had that. And I do think the Me Too movement, while I'm sure that there are plenty of cases within it that were, detrimental and obviously abusive, I think that it's also possible that it could be misused by women who have much more shrewd and calculating intentions. So it's